everyone. My name is Wendy Kornstein. I am a teacher in the North Penn School District who was also blessed to be one of Mary Martha's associates to help spread the message when she retired, because she did not retire. And just a couple of logistical things before I speak. I just wanted to let everybody know that they are recording the audio of this ceremony so they can send it to her family so that they can hear all of the words and everything that's going on. And if you did not get a chance to sign in, just make sure that you do, because we'll be sending that book up to the family as well. And then please make sure to take a program if you did not do that. I'm going to start off in true Mary Martha form by reading a book to everybody. And then if I can make it through the book, then I'm going to say a couple things. I just got a little emotional. But this book, if you knew her, it's one of the classics. I mean, I teach 6th grade and I still read this book the first week of school all the time. And it's called The Important Book, and it's by Margaret Wise Brown. So I'm going to just read this for you. I hope you enjoy it. And this is how we're going to get things started for my mentor, Mary Martha. The Important Book. The important thing about a spoon is that you eat with it. It is like a little shovel. You hold it in your hand. You can put it in your mouth. It isn't flat, it's hollow, and it spoons things up. But the important thing about a spoon is that you eat with it. The important thing about a daisy is that it is white. It is yellow in the middle, it has long white petals, and bees sit on it. It has a ticklish smell, it grows in green fields, and there are always lots of daisies. But the important thing about a daisy is that it is white. The important thing about rain is that it is wet. It falls out of the sky, it sounds like rain, and it makes things shiny. It does not taste like anything, and it is the color of air. But the important thing about rain is that it is wet. The important thing about grass is that it is green. It grows and is tender with the sweet grassy smell. But the important thing about grass is that it is green. The important thing about snow is that it is white. It is cold and light. It falls softly out of the sky. It is bright and the shape of tiny stars and crystals. It is always cold and it melts. But the important thing about the snow is that it is white. The important thing about an apple is that it is round. It is red. You bite it, and it is white inside, and the juice splashes in your face. And it tastes like an apple, and it falls off of a tree. But the important thing about an apple is that it is round. The important thing about the wind is that it blows. You can't see it, but you can feel it on your cheek, and see it bend trees and blow hats away and sailboats. But the important thing about the wind is that it blows. The important thing about the sky is that it is always there. It is true that it is blue and high and full of clouds and made of air. But the important thing about the sky is that it is always there. The important thing about a shoe is that you put your foot in it. You walk in it and you take it off at night. And it's warm when you take it off. But the important thing about a shoe is that you put your foot in it. The important thing about you is that you were you. It is true that you were a baby and you grew. And now you are a child and you will grow into a man or into a woman. But the important thing about you is that you are you. And that is the important book. And those last lines, if that does not just scream Mary Martha, I don't know what does. I say this all the time, I reflect about it all the time, I would not be the teacher I am today if it was not for this wonderful woman. All of the things that she taught all of us, you don't learn in a classroom. You don't learn in college. They don't prepare you for that. And we've been talking on the side, talking about now more than ever, is the message of what she stood for, so important in the world, in the community, in our classroom, about respect and building each other up and supporting one another. There's just so many things about her. The one message that I always thought of, and she always said, your students need to find themselves somewhere in your room, whether it's a book, a poster, somewhere. So they need to be able to know that they belong somewhere. And that was such an important message that even as I turned out to end up being the math teacher, which wasn't my plan back at the time, I still have a classroom full of picture books. And my 6th grade students are always like, why do you have all these picture books? I'm like, why aren't you reading them? Because the best lessons are in these books and these shelves, and everyone will find themselves somewhere in there. I just was so fortunate to be able to take all of her classes, and then the honor of when she asked me to be one of her associates is something I'll never forget. It was a tremendous experience. I was petrified to even pretend to step in her shoes because there was no way you could do that. But was so proud for so long to be able to contribute to the message of who she was. And, I saw a rainbow on my way here. Whether or not that was a coincidence, I'm going to go with it wasn't, because it was a monsoon at my house. And as I was getting closer to here, the sun came out and there was a rainbow. And that was Mary Martha. So I welcome you all. I'm going to stop now because I can't keep talking anymore. But thank you for coming. And I'm going to let Judy Johnston, I believe, next come on up and share some information. So thank you.
So nice to see old friends. And she has me cheering now for reading that book. Thank you. So anyway, when I started to reflect, about what I wanted to say about Mary Martha, I thought of the important book and what was important about her. And I'm sure you all have the same thing in your mind now. One of the things that I always thought of was her compassion for people. And certainly she brought that, Wendy brought that out as she spoke about Mary Martha and her classes. I had the honor of meeting Mary Martha way back in about 1985 when I taught her son. And we found out we were neighbors, and we found out we both liked to walk, so we became close walking friends. That's where a lot of the ideas for the classes and for the bookstore happened on our walks. So that was a good time. But one thing about Mary Martha, if she had an idea, she saw it through. It happened. I was talking to Suzanne. Mary Martha said, I think I'd like to start a bookstore. We both loved books. That was something we really had in common. But I don't want to start a store. I want to do it mail order. Mary Martha took pictures of about, I would say, 100 to 150 picture books and wrote a blurb about them, had the book published, mailed it out to everybody, and did get orders, mail orders. This was before the time of online buying, by the way. We did that for a while. I helped her out with some things and we chose the books together. But it wasn't working so well. So we went to a restaurant in Skipjack one day, and she said, I think we need to start a bookstore. And there was Skipjack Books born. Suzanne's going to talk about that. I too brought books. This is one of Mary Martha's very favorite books, Hope for the Flowers. I don't know if you've read it. Yeah. It's long. It's a graphic novel. And it has a lot of messages for a lot of different people and a lot of different things. But one of the passages that I would really like to read tonight, if I can get through this, it's about two caterpillars that wanted to get to the top of the caterpillar pillar. They didn't know what was up there. I'm just in the background. They didn't know what was at the top of the pillar, but everybody seemed to be going there. So they wanted to go. Of course, I can't find a picture right now. One of the little caterpillars decided that wasn't making sense, because she didn't know what was up there, and everybody was pushing and shoving, and she really didn't think she wanted to go. So that in itself, that whole thing ends up with a message about corporate corporate growing and chasing each other. But this one rings Mary Martha to me. One day, a gray-haired caterpillar hanging upside down on a branch surprised her. This is the little girl caterpillar. "You seem in trouble," she said. "Can I help?" "No, my dear, I have to do this myself to become a butterfly." Now, one thing was they had heard the word butterfly. She and her little boyfriend that were climbing the pillar had heard the word butterfly. They didn't know what it was. Her whole insides leapt. "Butterfly? That word?" she thought. "Tell me, sir, what is a butterfly?" "It's what you are meant to become. It flies," this is the hard part. "It flies with beautiful wings and joins the earth to heaven. It drinks only nectar from the flowers and carries the seeds of love from one to another." "Without butterflies, the world would soon have no flowers." "It can't be true," gasped Yellow. "How can I believe there's a butterfly inside me when all I see is a fuzzy worm?" "How does one become a butterfly?" she asked. "You must want to fly so much that you're willing to give up being a caterpillar." "You mean to die?" asked Yellow, remembering the three who fell out of the sky. They were knocking the caterpillars off the pillars. "Yes and no," he answered. "What looks like you will die, but what's really you will still live. Life is changed, not taken away. Isn't that different from those who die without ever becoming butterflies?" So anyway, it goes from there, but he tells her how it's going to continue. She eventually gets her little boyfriend down. I think he's in the strike, and they have a happy life. So if you ever have a chance to read this book, I'll put it up here if you can look at it. It really is. It takes a little time to read it because it's thicker than books, but it is a good book. Mary Martha had a lot of things that were really, really important to her. One, of course, was books. The other was women's rights, and she was very, very active in making sure that all of us as teachers knew how to be fair and equal and the correct language to use and so forth. And I brought another one of her books. If you had her class, I know you can. Now, for those of you who haven't, this is called the Paperback Princess, and I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'm going to read the end. I'll just tell you a little bit. The princess had a beautiful clothing and a beautiful castle, but it burned down. And when it burned down, it actually burned down from a dragon's fire. When it burned down, the dragon stole her handsome prince and took him off. Well, the Paperback Princess managed to outsmart the dragon. She made him very tired. She wore him out, and she was able to get into the cave where her handsome prince was being held captive. So I'm going to just read from there. Elizabeth whispered very softly, "Hey, dragon." The dragon didn't move at all. She lifted up the dragon's ear and put her head right inside. She shouted as loud as she could, "Hey, dragon!" The dragon was so tired he didn't even hear. Elizabeth walked right over the dragon and opened the door to the cave, and there was Prince Ronald. He looked at her and said, "Elizabeth, you are a mess. You smell like ashes, your hair is all tangled, and you're wearing a dirty old paper bag. Come back when you are dressed like a real princess." "Ronald," said Elizabeth, "your clothes are really pretty and your hair is neat. You look like a prince, but you're a bum." And she
You have to bring books, I guess that's the theme here. I'm Judy Lally, and when I think of Mary Martha, I think we all have a sense of who Mary Martha was. We have a common idea, and people have spoken about that sense. Something I was reminded of during the previous two speakers I started a book club in 2011, and that first night I didn't know how to start, and I said, let's do New and Good. I told them what New and Good was, and it's been our tradition every single month since May of 2011. And it really drew the group closer because we didn't all know each other. It's in Atlantic City, and it was just women from all different walks of life that I knew. And it gets longer and longer each month, and it's really, I think of Mary Martha every single time. So sometimes they cheat. They'll say, well, I broke my hip, but I'm getting better. You know, it has to be good. It has to be good. You can't talk about it. But since we do all have a sense of her, but as with any person that we know, we each have our own little relationship with her, like a separate, like Blind Man and the Elephant. Everybody knows their own little relationship with a person. And the one I wanted to talk about, it's not more like a tribute to Mary Martha, but just the vignettes about writing a book with her. I just wanted to share my experience. So she always had a book in her, but she was so busy with the bookstore and with all the teaching classes and tons and tons of folders and ideas, and the concept of just getting it all together and synthesized and getting it into a book, it just didn't seem like it was going to happen. And coincidentally, I had written a book, a children's book, years ago that she carried in the bookstore. At that time, it was called At Least I'm Getting Better. And it's just a series of poems that deal with a lot of the themes that she believed in, self-esteem and believing in yourself and learning from mistakes and getting along and all the humanistic education, social skill poems. Well, she told me that I had to use it a certain way. She was selling it, but she said, Judy, here's how you should use it. You don't just teach the poems randomly. You have to do one a week. You have to make it like into a lesson a week and focus on that. No, that's not how I teach, Mary Martha. When it comes up, I just teach the poem. No, this is how you have to do it. Every week, pick a poem and make a theme out of it and do, corresponding lessons and bring in other children's literature with that theme. And so then time passed, and then I had another publisher, and they wanted to reprint the book with the title I Like Being Me, and that was this version. But they would only publish it if there was a leader's guide with activities to go along with it. So that really became a match made in heaven. I knew I could not write a leader's guide on my own. And here's Mary Martha with all her wonderful ideas, and she's like an expert in my poems, and she's telling me how to do it week by week. So long story short, we collaborated on a leader's guide, and I'm really happy that, for her sake, there is a book in print with her name on it, by Mary Martha Whitworth, Judy Raleigh and Mary Martha Whitworth. And I just wanted to share a little of the experience of doing that. So we lived in the same development, and like Judy, we used to take walks in this park and walk and talk. But also, she would walk across the parking lot, come to my house with her Diet 7-Up, and we would sit a whole summer and we worked on this book together, and it was just such a fun experience for both of us. And I had this was in the 90s, I had an electric typewriter, but I was watching this TV show called Lou Grant, which was a spin-off of Mary Tyler Moore Show. And Lou Grant was an editor, and his journalists had typewriters on their desk. And then the next season, they had these boxes. They looked like TVs, and I asked my husband, what is that? And he said, oh, it's called a word processor. I said, oh. So I bought a word processor so we could write this book and actually press save. And a little disc, 4 computers. So we worked that summer on the word processor, and the end of the summer, Labor Day weekend, it was a mad rush. The publisher had a deadline, and I went and bought something called a fax machine, back and forth. It was just so much fun that summer, it really was. We got it in by Labor Day, on the Monday, got it done, and we just had fun, and we made a couple of dollars, we shared the royalties. When the book went out of print, and I spilled something on it today, this may be my last copy, I don't know, but we published it ourselves, so I think we like this cover better. We went to Staples, and that was fun, and we did that together, and we redesigned it a little bit, and then Staples messed up on something, so they gave us a whole bunch of extra copies, and we sold them anyway. She would take them to workshops, but the point is that, it's not all of her ideas, hardly. But it is a lot of her ideas memorialized in a book with her name on it, and I'm happy about that. I just checked today, there's a few still on Amazon, third party. And I just really enjoyed not just the result, but the journey. We really got to know each other that summer. And so I just wanted to close with one of the poems. I was looking for one of her favorites, but when I opened the book, it turned to this page, and again, just like the book, we were reading about the caterpillars and the butterflies, and even when you're gone and you're still here, and I saw this poem, so I figured this is the one I would read. I hope you're as lucky as I am. I hope you have someone to play with, someone who cares what you say. I hope you are always together, even if one goes away. I hope you can share all your feelings. I hope you don't have to pretend. I hope you're as lucky as I am. I hope someone calls you a friend.
I am Judith Thomas, one of Mary Martha's good friends, or one of the lucky people who can say that I could call her a friend. We became friends through our children when they were in school plays, in middle school, high school. My older child and her youngest. But the story I want to tell you is just an illustration. There is a lot being said, written, and we all know about how Mary Martha had her unique way to influence children to learn and could see the need, maybe a different angle for a different student. So she made a big, not only a big impression, but a big impact on my son's life, who was in high school, mainly between 3 p.m. and 9 p.m., but usually never in the morning in his junior, senior year, because he really, starting out as a gifted child in elementary school, by the time he was in high school, he just didn't have the patience. He was very interested in the extracurricular activities. Green room, Japanese club, music, but just not the academic studies. So I was like pulling my hair out. Mary Martha, what am I going to do? I mean, he's not going to even graduate from high school. And she said, well, it's not for him. High school is not for him. He can't pay attention. He's brilliant, but his attention just goes everywhere. But he has enough credits, high school credits already. So why don't we just send him to college? There is a program that he can go and take classes at Montgomery County Community College and finish the credits, and then he will get his high school diploma at the end. So that's what happened. All of a sudden, he wasn't a high school dropout, he was a college kid. He was getting A's and B's at Montco. He loved it. I'm in college. And I had to luckily I had the kind of job where I had some flexibility, because he wasn't driving yet. I was driving him every day to Montco, twice a day sometimes. And as a result of Mary Martha's genius, foresight and insight, my son now, he's a very successful starving artist. He's never finished college, went for 2 more years to a different school, but he's a rock musician. He's very happy, and he knows a lot. He's learning, just not the traditional way. So that's my story about Mary Martha, who was, besides this, it was a lot of fun, always.
Thank you so much for your patience. This is fun. So this is in dedication to Mary Martha. We have some elementary school kids. Can you guys raise your hands? We have some elementary schoolers. We have some middle schoolers. And we have some high schoolers. That are my second guys. So, but this is, it's not working. It's not working. So a cappella. It's okay.
And oh, my soul so weary, when troubles come, and my
Come on up. We have a whole lot of chairs. Come on up.
Yeah.
No, you should say something.
Just say that this is from the family.
Go ahead.
This is a slideshow that Mary Martha's family created.
Wow.
I don't know. There we go. This one's more chronological.
Yeah, this is the most. Isn't that great?
So cute.
Yeah.
Ellie McGraw in the love story. She looks a little bit like Ellie McGraw in the love story.
There you go. Here's your name tag.
There it is. There's that picture.
That's a good one.
Nancy and Carol. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So many of us at AAUW wanted to do something special for the family, and we put together some memories, and I put them together in a Shutterfly book that has been sent to both Liesl and Tori. And I'll try to show this to you. You won't be able to read the different tributes, but you can sort of see what the book looks like. And then I'd like to read what Liesl sent to me yesterday after she received the book. So, let's see if we can. Excuse me. Let's see if we can.
That's beautiful.
What a memory for their kids. New and good.
Do you want me to read?
Yes, yes.
I have it on my phone, so.
Want to go to the mic?
Usually I'm pretty loud. Tell me
Okay.
if you can't hear me back there. Okay. Oh, Karen, the beautiful book of tributes to my mom is absolutely amazing. Every one of the letters was heartfelt and incredibly touching. It is such a wonderful gift to read how much my mom touched so many people and made such positive change. I look forward to sharing this tribute with my boys and family members so that they can better understand the impact that she had on the world. I will send a proper thank you card to the AAUW women, but please let anyone you see, and this group, before then, know how incredibly thankful I am for that precious gift that our family can treasure. With love and immense gratitude, Lisa. And thank all of you who sent in tributes and pictures. It was so good to receive them, and it gave me the opportunity to see how she impacted everyone in different ways.
Hi, I am Erin McKelvey Secker. I have to put the McKelvey in there. That's my maiden name, as you would have guessed. But when Mary Martha called on me to be one of her associates, I think I must have just been married or just engaged, or I can't remember now the year, but I must have just been getting married. And she said, "Oh, you have to keep McKelvey. Your professional name can be McKelvey. Even if you choose to take your husband's name, I really suggest that you go with McKelvey professionally. It's who you are." So I didn't take it anywhere else except for Mary Martha Associates. And every time she offered a course that I was teaching, Lois Winton here could vouch, it said Erin McKelvey Secker. So much so that when I signed in, I automatically signed Erin Secker. I quickly wrote next to it Erin McKelvey Secker, just so that she would know that it was really me here. So as part of her classes and being one of her associates, something that she brought to the table everywhere she went was fun. And a message that, like Wendy and others have shared, that's ingrained in me is kids first and curriculum second. So one of the things that she brought to every class was at least 75 energizers. And she had so many favorites, a Tudita being one of the consistent favorites, a rainstorm, which would have been great tonight, but we would have had a circle up, and so many others. So one that kind of came on later was Tony Chestnut, and that was a fun one, so we can kind of stay where we are, but I'm going to ask you to stand up, and I'll lead you. Oh, sorry, sit down, I lied. So why we do it. Okay, so why we do Energizers, if you don't know, is because every person, every child has the attention span of a fly, but has the attention span of their age plus 2 minutes. So I teach second grade, and that's 7-year-olds. So I have the attention of a 7-year-old for about 9 minutes on a really good day. So for adults, it's about 15 to 20 minutes all said and done. So Mary Martha always said, you do Energizers every day, all day long, to help kids stay focused on what you're trying to get across to them. And I remember being in class and learning from her and her saying, someone asking the question, well, what do? They get so energized and they get so, overly excited and I can't settle them back down. Maybe I should stop. Every single time that question was asked, she would say, absolutely not. That class just needs more energizers. And you need to keep getting them up and getting them moving. And you will teach them how to calm and how to refocus afterwards. It's part of your job. So we do energizers to keep it fun, to keep it light, and to keep the focus so that you can remember who you're working with every day and what their needs are. Good. All right, so before you stand up, the energizer is Tony Chestnut. So Tony Chestnut is a song and it's movement. So, and you would think like Tony, Tony Chestnut, but it's your toes, your knees, your chest, your nut, your nose, and then it's your I love you. So I'll sing it for you, and you can just go with me. So stand up, stretch out. I'm sure you've been sitting for a little long, way longer than your attention span can really allow for. All right, so Tony Chestnut is, I'll sing it first. It's Tony Chestnut knows I love you. Tony knows. Tony knows. Only Mary Martha would get me to do this because I too was petrified to be teaching grown-ups as I do little kids. And she was like, you can do this. And I even said, like, what if I don't want to? Can I quit? She was like, absolutely no, you don't quit. So here we are. So that's the melody. I'll sing it for you. And the motions just go with the song. So it's Tony Chestnut knows I love you. And then Tony knows. Tony knows. Tony knows. All over. Tony Chestnut knows I love you. And it ends like this. That's what Tony knows. Good job. All right, Amy's requesting one more time faster. You don't want to, I can get it, but she would make you stand up. So get up out of those seats. One more time faster, okay? Tony Chestnut knows I love you. Tony knows. One more time. Tony knows. Down low. Tony Chestnut knows I love you. We finished. That's what Tony knows. Absolutely.
Was your mom a teacher at elementary school? No. Because there was a Mrs. McCalvey taught my daughter,
That's so funny.
so many of you tonight. You can see why this was a problem. I too was a better teacher because of Mary Martha, but I also had the tremendous advantage of knowing her first as a neighbor, a friend, a fellow Nash parent. My daughter Jenny and Tori were only a year apart, and they were in plays together at Nash under the tutelage of Judy Johnston, who spoke earlier. And Mary Martha would come and she would take pictures, just not of Tori, but of all the children, because we were there at dress rehearsals, not all the parents were able to make it, and so she was there making sure that every child was photographed. Because I had such a long history with Mary Martha and she was such a gift to the Lansdale branch of AUW, it was my privilege to write a tribute to her on behalf of our branch, along with the input of many of our members and with the wonderful editing skills of my friend Karen. So we got this off to the family before the memorial service was held in Vermont, and we were asked to share it with you tonight. I know that Liesl did share it at the memorial service in Vermont, and was so appreciative that we were able to send this off to her. So Karen and I are going to read it tonight, and I guess I'll start. How does one describe someone as special as our dear friend Mary Martha and do her justice? Kind, compassionate, inspiring, and altruistic only begin to describe the essence of this brilliant and amazing woman who so many of us were honored to call our friend.
The heart and soul of the Lansdale branch of the American Association of University Women for many years, Mary Martha brought so much energy and purpose to our branch. She was the inspiration behind many of our most successful projects. Always a champion of children, Mary Martha brought the issue of latchkey children to the attention of our membership in the late 80s. This was a time when school-age child care was not available, but many women were in the workforce. Her concern led to the creation of a survey to assess the need for before and after school child care by our branch, and ultimately to the creation of the school-age child care centers in every one of the elementary schools in our local school district.
Always an agent of positive change, Mary Martha lived the mission of AAUW, advocating equity for women and girls. She initiated the GOLD, or Girls Overnight Leadership Development Program, to address the issue of girls' diminishing self-esteem during the middle school years. This was a highly successful leadership program helping girls to feel good about who they are. The program continued for more than 10 years, helping hundreds of girls in our community.
The importance of children to Mary Martha cannot be overstated. A loving mother and grandmother, a teacher trainer, an author, and an advocate of children's rights, she dedicated her life to their well-being. The challenges and attempts to remove any public education programs that supported inclusiveness in the mid-90s brought Mary Martha and members of our branch into the political arena of school board meetings and elections. It was not unusual to see Mary Martha speaking up at school board meetings to protect the programs that were being challenged by members of the community, some school board members and candidates. She advocated for the students' right to learn about and accept differences in others.
Mary Martha was a shining beacon for educators and believed we should teach the child first, you've heard this already tonight, and the curriculum second. Many of the teachers in our branch, along with thousands of teachers in our county and beyond, took the courses she designed and taught at the local community college. Mary Martha did for educators what Mr. Fred Rogers did for parents, showed us how to connect with and encourage each child. Believing that children are our future, she dedicated herself to making the world a kinder place for them.
Mary Martha was our dear mentor and friend, and gave to all of us a legacy of encouragement, kindness, and compassion. The world is a better place because of her. She will be sorely missed, but will live on in our hearts as we attempt to follow in her footsteps. With deepest sympathy, the AAW Lansdale.
My name is Amy Ryan Faga, and I'm going to read something that I wrote about Mary Martha. Teaching is hard. Trying to meet the needs of all the wildly different children in your classroom is challenging. Finding the balance between covering the required curriculum and making the classroom a welcoming and encouraging place to be is what makes teaching both an art and a science. Mary Martha was a wellspring of information and experience to help thousands of teachers do exactly that, find the balance. While our principals and department chairs were there with data analysis and the latest test scores, Mary Martha provided us with the resources and ideas for how to build connections between teachers and students and how to strengthen relationships between students. She knew how important it was to make every child feel safe and valued and to feel empowered to share their opinions and thoughts. Mary Martha developed hundreds of strategies, as many people have said, for teachers to use with students of any age. All ideas were research-based and tested by the experience of teachers all over Montgomery County, Pennsylvania, and beyond. This can be seen by visiting any classroom today with a teacher who has taken a Mary Martha class, which is what we called her courses. For example, instead of saying to the students, find a partner, Mary Martha encouraged us to use grouping cards instead. This practice eliminated the free-for-all that would ensue while students scrambled to find a buddy, inevitably leaving some children out and struggling with hurt feelings. The lesson would be diminished as a few kids would be thinking about, I didn't get picked. Mary Martha's grouping cards could be easily and quickly passed out, and kids would walk around to find their partner. Peanut butter would match up with jelly, or if the teacher wanted groups of 3, Snap, Crackle, and Pop would match up to form a trio. It got the students up and moving about for a minute, got them thinking about which words went together, and it worked every time. In about a minute, the class was in groups and ready for the next step. No hurt feelings about not being picked. No one ever left out. Teachers left every Mary Martha class with ideas and resources to use the next day. Teachers connected with each other as they brought up concerns, and Mary Martha offered her suggestions, and other teachers would share their experiences. Teacher support systems developed and grew. We all felt fortified and excited to get into our classrooms to try her time-tested ideas. Mary Martha's influence spread from the thousands of teachers who took her graduate courses to the tens of thousands of students who reaped the benefits of her wisdom and philosophy to teach the whole child. No one influenced my teaching more than Mary Martha. I saw firsthand how my students' self-concepts were bolstered because of the many techniques I learned from her. Mary Martha knew what we all know, but sometimes forget as we get caught up in the hamster wheel of preparing for standardized tests. Students will do better and achieve more if they feel valued, safe, and connected to their peers and teachers. Thank God for Mary Martha Whitworth, who made it her life's work to show us how to do that. And now, if there's anyone seated who would like to say something, you don't have to come up here. We have a very long mic cord. I can just bring the mic to you. And if you'd like to say something, how about you just raise your hand and I will bring you the mic. Oh, come on up.
Hi, I'm Nicole Dudek, and the first class I took with Mary Martha was gender equity, and there was so much I didn't know. I learned in that class. I learned that I didn't know a lot, and I knew that I wanted to learn more. Now I have a daughter who is 10 years old, and she has a great interest in how women have affected our history and where we are today. And I'm constantly reminded of Mary Martha as she is eager to learn so much about history and women in history. After taking gender equity, I went on to take many more of Mary Martha's classes, and then was fortunate enough then to teach Mary Martha's classes. And I am just as passionate about children's books as she was. And one of this book here is called Miss Rumphius by Barbara Coon. And it was one of the books that she always shared in the class that she identified with. In this book, the woman leaves a message that we all have to leave the world, or do a few things, 3 things in the world. And the last one is to make the world more beautiful. And I think we can all agree that Mary Martha, in her life, in passing on so much to teachers and to me, focusing on the whole child, and just all of her positive messages, has left the world a better place, more beautiful, leave the world more beautiful than she has. Thank you.
I'm sorry, the cord is not as long as I thought. I thought it was. So you'll have to come up. Sorry about that. I know not everybody likes to do that, but come on up.
Hi, I'm Nancy Mellon, and I never took a Mary Martha course. I left education or teaching before she started those courses, and I really believe that was a big problem for me that I didn't have that. But my story is, my husband worked at Montgomery County Community College, as I did, and he, at this point, was director of community education, and a lot of Mary Martha's courses were held at the college. So he would come home and he'd say, "Oh, Nancy, I had to do it again." I said, "What, honey, did you have to do?" "Well, the teachers in the other rooms would call me and say it was too noisy. And they were having too much fun." So I said, "Honey, this is what education is all about. Having fun and learning, he just would go crazy. Now, you have to realize he grew up in the 50s in a Catholic school. He had no fun in education. The other story is with Amy. Here I am having lunch at Montgomery County Community College. I'm outside, and I see my friend Amy. And this woman is bursting with happiness. She can hardly sit on the bench. I say, "Amy, what is going on with you? You are so hyper." "Well, I'm taking a Mary Martha course. I'm just so excited." And she went on and on and on. And I thought, oh my God, this is so wonderful to have people like this that are going out and teaching the children. That is just wonderful. And the third thing is, I was one of the ones, many of the women here, got to enjoy Mary Martha on one of Myra's weekends. We would go to Cape May. Mary Martha and Judith would go and sit on the beach forever. They would come back with these little red noses and these little red faces. Mary Martha was so happy on those weekends at the beach. But I always made it my mission to be on Mary Martha's team if we played a game. Because she was so smart. We're going to miss you, Mary Martha.
Susan Salter Donahue, and I put Salter in there because Lisa and Tori would have known me by that name. I think mostly when I think of Mary Martha, I think how grateful I was to know her. I am to know her. Every once in a while you meet someone in your life and you have no idea the impact they're going to have on you. And that's what Mary Martha was to me. I was a 17-year-old, fresh out of high school, when I started working for Child Care Systems, where Mary Martha was the executive director. I had had no experience in the corporate world, and it blew my mind years later when I got into other corporate world. And it wasn't assumed every woman knew what being assertive was and all of those wonderful things. We had I met Linda there, she'll talk about her experiences, but we had a very strong male president, and looking back on the things that she taught us every day. It was a small company, and some of the lessons, and She started New and Goods back then. She's always done those, and I was like, wow, this is fun. So it was great. And to the people who were her neighbors, I apologize for the weekends that I babysat for Lisa and Tori. We were blasting Lionel Richie, if you remember that. And that was also, she really taught, and you know, I met her, she was a single mom, and no matter what we were doing at work, her family was always number one. And that was something that, you know, I didn't realize all the lessons she was teaching me until much later, but I'm so grateful to have looked back and have had that time with her.
I'm Linda Kriebel Francis. Kriebel is how Mary Martha knew me back in the early 1980s when I met her and worked with Susan and Mary Martha at Child Care Systems. Mary Martha just led by example. She didn't sit us down and, you know, you need to do this. She may have coached us a little bit, but it was just leading by example. Just seeing her stand up to our president and just stand up for what's right. She didn't do it to argue. She just stood up for other people and children. As far as personal life, I knew Liesl and Peter and Tori. She loved those kids. Just no question about it. Vacations, she had a pop-up camper, and I have no idea how many miles she put on that thing, but a lot. They'd go up to New England or out to the Grand Canyon, and she'd let me borrow it occasionally. We'd clean it up, and you could just see that they had fun. There was mud on the floor, there was marshmallow left on the s'more sticks and stuff, and she just loved a vacation with those children. I was a country bumpkin off the farm, and number 6 out of 6 children. We grew up like 5 miles from here, and I had no idea what the world was about. I was a little country bumpkin, and soon after I started there, I was right out of high school, and we had to go down to Atlanta to the NAEYC conference. I had never traveled on a plane. I had never presented in front of people before. I had no idea, but Mary Martha just coached me. She stepped me through it. We were down there, and I'll remember, let's go to the Underground Mall. Sure, a mall, why not? Well, little did I know, Mary Martha and I were the only 2 white people there. And people started making comments, and I'm like, oh my gosh. But she just had the confidence. She was just smooth about it. Let's go. She didn't worry. She didn't get excited. She just had that confidence that she exuded everywhere in everything she did. And like Susan said, never knew it back then how much she would influence my life and going forward and everything. But she did, and I just appreciated her so much, and I still do. Lisa and Tori, I still remember you kids as young, and she just loved you like no tomorrow. And I'm sorry she's gone, but she's still with us.
I'm Dot McLean, and I met Mary Martha through AAUW, and she was one of the first people I worked with in her gold program. And what I remember most is that she is so generous of spirit that she helped me. You couldn't have asked for a better cheerleader or fledgling leader. She wanted me to succeed. She wanted all women to succeed. And I don't think I really appreciated how rare that was. In the 20 years since, when I've worked with various women and men towards women's equity, that's a rare commodity. We often let our egos get in the way, but not Mary Martha. She wanted every woman to succeed. We should all aspire to that. So that's a lesson she taught me, among many others, and she's touched my life, and I'm grateful that she has.
Anybody else want to say anything? Come on up, Paul.
Can I just stay from here?
Sure, sure.
I was a colleague of Mary Martha's teaching for the IU, and so I never took her courses, but I learned a lot because my students would then teach me from her courses. But the thing that she did most for me was make me a political activist.
Oh, amen.
And it was the late 80s and early 90s. And actually, the week before we heard about Mary Martha, Eileen and I were writing postcards to political people, and I said, I have to find Mary Martha Whitworth. And I said, maybe I can find Amy Fega. And so here I am. But she warned us of what's happening in our country today. She told us everything that is happening today. And you know, I lived in North Jersey, and when I'd go back there, they would laugh at me because I say no Coors beer. They don't support public schools. No Hearst potato chips. No Walmart. No. And they thought I was crazy, I'll be honest. But she, in every IU course that she taught, she showed a documentary that was shown at the Sundance Festival. If anybody knows the name of that documentary or where we can get it, I've been trying to track it down. I have no idea. But it was she was telling us about the school boards, how the people were taking over our country, election by election, starting with school boards, local, and moving on. And so what's happened to our country started a long time ago in the 80s, and Mary Martha knew about it. And it's horrifying to think it was so well planned. This just didn't happen by chance. Yeah. And so she turned me into an activist, and I probably annoy everyone with my emails. And because I always say I'm not going to send any today, but something happens that I think everybody needs to know, and I'm sure they didn't hear it on the news, only I did. So I'm still teaching, but she really, I don't know how she knew all of that, and I don't know how she became involved with that, but she made sure every teacher had to hear it. She had the courage to do that. Think about that. In every single IU course that had nothing to do with politics, everything to do with education, she made everybody sit through that documentary and discuss it, and hopefully she turned lots of other people into activists. So anybody know what that video was, the documentary?
I have that movie.
You have it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Isn't it called New School Order?
New school order.
New school order.
New school order. Okay, I wonder if we can. Okay, so then we can find it. So everybody has to find the new school order, because when you see it, you won't believe it, because it's everything that's happening today. So I thank Mary Martha for preparing me and getting me involved, because probably I wouldn't have been involved at all. I mean, eventually I would have caught on, but I was involved a long time ago, and probably annoying a lot of people about it. But all those products are never in my house. And one of my fifth graders did do a project on the evils of Walmart 20 years ago. So without my help, but so he was on the same path too. So anyway, let's all keep that spirit of Mary Martha alive, along with all of our books. I just bought Lupin's, like Miss Ruffius the other day. I never saw one before. I saw them. I had to buy them. So all the books you read, I'm telling you, I have that book. I have that book. So, you know, it's been a pleasure to be here with all of you, to be with seeing how Mary Martha transformed education. It's great.
Hi, my name is Rosie Snyder. I was a friend of Mary Martha's from the time our children were, I guess, in kindergarten at my school. She lived where I lived. She was a light in my life and a mentor to me my whole life. She was always teaching me something. Even when we were walking or talking, my favorite memories are going with Diane Graham and herself to Applebee's, and we would have strawberry margaritas. But something that I came across in, I guess it's from Facebook, was Mr. Munster, Herman, talking to his son, Eddie, and he said, "The lesson I want you to learn is, it doesn't matter what you look like. You can be short or tall, fat or thin, ugly or handsome like your father, black or yellow or white. What does matter is the size of your heart and the strength of your character." 1965.
Thank you. I want to give a male perspective for what that's worth.
connection with Mary Martha is truly prolific, not nearly as intimate as many of yours has been. But the name Mary Martha Whitworth, I first became aware of when I started out in my counseling practice, and I feel that all of you who have been in education have been blessed, because it's the best field to be in, given the impact you can have on the world. And clearly, all of what you've been saying, Mary Martha was all about that impact. But there was a book that became part of my arsenal, my counseling arsenal. It was written by, co-authored by Mary Martha Whitworth and Leland Howe. And that's the sequel. Mine predates that. It was called a Values Clarification Handbook.
Got that.
And in my counseling practice, it just was something that I drew upon frequently. It was just kind of a natural. Listening to all of you tonight, what an impact Mary Martha has had, not only on individuals, but think about the legacy, the geometric progression of all of the contacts and all of the information. And we can say, and some of you have intimated, that clearly the world is a far better place because of people like Mary Martha. And we can't give up on the bastards in the world. We have to remember that kindness and doing good things is what we all have to engage in. So think about that when you're out and about. And, if it takes a Mary Martha vision in your head to be a catalyst for that, whatever, but make it part of who you are. Mary Martha worked for me. I had a contract to be a test administrator for some nationally standardized tests. And I was always so happy to know that Mary Martha was around so that I could hire her to be a room supervisor, especially in testing situations that had a whole lot of security issues. You had to take inventory of everything you got in the shipment and make sure that everything was sent back and nobody walked off with a test book. Well, I was always so happy to know that Mary Martha was going to be working with me because, as you all know, she doesn't leave a stone unturned. She was very right on the money and never had a problem with Mary Martha's room, and the students are the test people that she was administering. I just about jumped out of my seat when you said she is a Fred Rogers. But I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, she's a female version of Fred Rogers, and Lord knows we need more people like her. Oh, I want to say one more thing. I want to say that we all owe Amy Ryan
Does anybody have anything else? Because we've got a beautiful closing song, and then we have cookies and drinks. Anybody want to say anything?
I just want to say that the one textbook that I have from college still, because college was a long time ago, is my copy of Values Clarification. And I know where it is. It's on my bookshelf, and I can't believe that when I was, an 18-year-old going off to college, that the first semester I got this book that was so influential in my life. And not only did I get the book,
but then I got Mary Martha too, which was a huge bonus.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, we're going to close with a beautiful hymn. I want to thank the Celtic Airs and the Cadence Music Academy who sang for us. And when the song is over, you're free to come up and get a cold drink and cookies and linger as long as you like. And if you're so inclined, when it's time to go, if you'd like to carry a chair up to the parking lot, we would appreciate it, but it's okay. Thanks to everybody. I loved everything that was said, and I think we really did her proud.
Yes.
Thank you for coming and braving the weather. chocolate chip cookies because they were Mary Martha's favorite. And all the things I'm sure are her favorite. So enjoy.